Welcome to Kiki's Talk Buffet. Let's talk it out.
Welcome to the Deep Dive. We're the show where we take sources you suggest and, well, pull out the key insights.
That's right. And today we're diving into something from Rich Dad, Poor Dad that definitely makes you stop and think.
Yeah, it's lesson 6. Work to learn, don't work for money. It's a bit backwards, doesn't it?
It does initially, but, the idea isn't that you should work for free or anything.
Right.
Our mission today is really to unpack why focusing on learning certain skills, maybe over just grabbing the highest salary right now, can be, well, way more powerful for your career and your finances in the long run.
Exactly. It's about playing the long game.
Okay.
And the book uses a lot of personal stories to get this across.
It does, like that one about the young reporter in Singapore. She wanted to be a best-selling author.
Oh, yeah, I remember that. Super talented writer, apparently.
For sure. Great writing skills.
Yeah.
But her books just weren't selling like she'd hoped. She was, frustrated. Working as a reporter paid the bills, but it wasn't the dream.
And then the author, Kiyosaki, gives her some advice. What was it again?
He suggested she learn about sales. And her reaction was strong.
Yeah. Yeah, that's putting it mildly. Really highlights a common mindset, though.
It really does. She was almost offended,
Yeah.
Mentioned her master's in English Lit, like that made sales irrelevant or something beneath her.
Right.
Had this real disdain for salespeople, basically saying, oh, all they care about is money. It's funny how often you hear that, isn't it? That resistance to anything that smacks of selling.
It is common. Maybe it feels less pure than the actual craft, whatever that craft is. But that's where Kiyosaki makes that killer point.
The distinction.
Yeah, he says something like, it says best-selling author, not best writing author. What's the real message there?
Well, it's the talent isn't enough on its own, right?
Yeah.
Her writing was maybe top-notch, best writing potential.
Okay.
But to be best-selling, you actually need people to buy the book. And that takes, it takes sales and marketing. You need that combination.
It's the synergy.
Exactly. Think about it. Brilliant scientists who can't get funding. Amazing artists who struggle. Often, it's because they haven't learned how to communicate the value, how to essentially sell their idea or their work.
That best writing versus best-selling thing applies everywhere then. Really makes you wonder how many talented people get stuck because they're missing that one complementary skill.
Totally. And the book brings us up again with that story about the mechanic, remember?
Vaguely. The guy was amazing with cars.
Yeah, like he could just listen to an engine and know what was wrong. Super skilled. And this consultant watching him says something like,
They are one skill away from great wealth. I remember that line.
right. Because the technical skill was there, but maybe he didn't know how to, market himself or run the business side or build a customer base.
So adding just one more piece, one extra skill, could have completely changed his trajectory.
That's the idea. Exponential growth, potentially. And the author argues financial intelligence itself is a mix of skills.
Not just working hard.
No. It's accounting, knowing where the money goes. Investing, making it grow. Marketing, getting customers. And even some basic law, like contracts and stuff.
Most people just focus on the job part, the earning.
Yeah, just working for that paycheck. And that reporter story is like the perfect example of needing that skills energy.
So what did he actually suggest she do beyond just learn sales?
He got specific. He said she could take courses, maybe advertising, copywriting, or sales training.
Practical stuff.
Yeah, and even suggested maybe taking a job at an ad agency, even if it paid less than a reporter job for a while.
A pay cut. Ouch.
But the goal wasn't the pay, it was the learning, right? Learning persuasive writing, public relations, skills she could directly use to sell her own books later. It's about that strategic move, even if it hurts a bit short term.
That takes some foresight. Okay, speaking of strategy, let's talk about the book's title itself. If you want to be rich and happy, don't go to school. Pretty bold.
Definitely provocative. And apparently that was intentional.
There's a story there.
Yeah, the publisher wanted something super dry, like the economics of education.
Cows.
Exactly. Kiyosaki figured, rightly, that it wouldn't sell. So he pushed for the controversial title.
Why? Just for attention.
Pretty much to get people talking, get media interviews. He clarifies he's not actually anti-education overall.
Okay.
His issue is more with what schools teach, or rather what they don't teach, like financial literacy. The title was pure marketing strategy. A bit obnoxious, maybe, but effective.
It worked. Sometimes you need that unconventional push. Okay, so a huge part of the book is the two dads, right? The contrast.
Absolutely central.
Yeah.
You've got his real dad, the poor dad, highly educated, government job,
valued security.
Hugely. Job security, benefits, steady path. Then you have his friend's dad, the rich dad, less formal education, but focused on business and investing.
And he valued learning.
Learning, above all else.
Yeah.
Acquiring skills, taking calculated risks. And this difference really shows up after Kiyosaki finished school.
Right, he got a pretty decent job offer, didn't he?
Yeah, with Standard Oil, good pay, good company, third mate on a ship. Looked like a solid career start.
But he didn't stick with it.
Nope. Quit after 6 months, joined the Marine Corps to learn to fly.
His educated dad must have freaked out.
Totally bewildered. Thought he was throwing his future away. But the rich dad,
Let me guess. Congratulated him.
got it. Because rich dad saw the learning opportunity,
Yeah.
leadership, discipline, handling pressure, not just the paycheck.
That's the whole work to learn thing in action. Not about the immediate cash, but the skills gained.
Exactly. And it ties into this whole debate about specialization versus, well, knowing a bit about a lot.
Which is interesting because the usual advice is specialize, right? Become the expert doctor, the expert lawyer.
That's the traditional path. Go deep, more qualifications, higher pay.
Yeah.
And the educated dad followed that, got his doctorate. But even he apparently admitted schools kind of reward knowing more and more about less and less. Over-specialization.
Whereas Rich Dad's advice was the opposite.
Completely. He told Kiyosaki, you want to know a little about a lot? Be a generalist, in a way.
And he made him practice that.
Yeah, had him work all over his businesses. Accounting, bussing tables, construction, sales, marketing, reservations.
Wow, the full tour.
The goal wasn't mastery in one thing, but understanding the whole system, how all the pieces fit. Plus, he'd sit in on meetings with bankers, lawyers.
Getting that broad exposure so you see the bigger picture.
Right, it makes you more agile, you see more opportunities than if you're just stuck in one narrow lane.
Which makes sense.
Well-
So after the Marines, he didn't go back to ships. He went somewhere else unexpected.
Right, he joined Xerox. And again, his educated dad was probably scratching his head, leaving the military for sales.
But there was a reason. Still working to learn.
Exactly. He specifically picked Xerox because they were known for having one of the best sales training programs in the country.
And he needed that skill.
Desperately, apparently. He admits he was actually really shy, and the idea of selling terrified him.
So he faced the fear.
Deliberately. Rich dad was proud, saw it as tackling a weakness. Educated dad probably saw it as, a step down. That intellectual snobbery about sales again.
It keeps coming up. How long was he at Xerox?
4 years. Stuck with it until he was one of their top salespeople, mastered the skill, then boom, resigned.
On to the next phase, which was...
Starting his own company, 1977. Time to actually apply everything he'd learned from Rich Dad.
What was the first product?
Those nylon and Velcro wallets. Surfer wallets, basically. Made overseas, sold in the U.S. The main point wasn't just the wallet, though.
It was learning how to build a business from scratch.
Exactly. Formation, operations, the whole 9 yards.
Yeah.
Putting the theory into practice.
And Rich Dad had some advice for him then too, right? About failure.
Yeah, something like go broke before you're 30.
Sounds harsh.
But the logic was, if you're going to mess up, do it while you're young enough to recover and learn from it. Don't be afraid to fail, basically. See it as tuition.
That's a mindset shift. Okay, so tied into this is that acronym he uses, JOB.
Ah, yeah. JOB stands for just over broke.
Ouch. Cynical, but he argues it's true for a lot of people.
He does. He says because schools don't teach financial smarts, people end up trapped, just earning enough to cover bills, paycheck to paycheck.
Never really getting ahead. And that leads to that, horrible management theory.
Yeah, that's a bleak one. The idea that workers basically do just enough to not get fired.
And employers pay just enough so workers don't quit.
Right. A kind of low-level equilibrium where nobody's really thriving. He suggests it's unfortunately common.
So the core advice, especially for young people, is flip the script. Don't just look at the salary number.
Exactly. Look at what you'll learn. Seek out jobs based on the skills you can pick up, not just the starting pay or the benefits.
Because focusing only on pay traps you in
The rat race. That endless cycle of working just to pay bills, maybe getting small raises, but never really building wealth or freedom.
like a hamster on a wheel, going nowhere fast.
Precisely. And he mentions that line from Jerry Maguire, the guy staying on a job he hates because he's up for promotion soon.
Right, playing it safe, chasing the next small step, instead of maybe taking a leap that involves learning something new and potentially more valuable.
Yeah, like his educated dad, always getting more degrees, hoping for a raise, and then being disappointed. The big question Kiyosaki wants you to ask is, where is this daily activity taking you?
Is it leading somewhere better or just keeping you busy?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Are you building skills, assets, moving towards independence, or just running in place? And this becomes super important when you think about the future, like retirement.
Yeah, the book touches on that, the potential problems down the road.
Briefly, yeah.
Yeah.
Mentions worries about not having enough saved, healthcare costs going up, stuff covered in the retirement myth.
It just underlines why building financial security over the long haul is so critical, which comes back to learning, building skills, managing money smartly.
It all connects. So for adults already working who feel stuck, what's some practical advice?
He suggests maybe taking a second job, but not just for extra cash.
For learning a specific skill.
Right. And he specifically mentions network marketing or multi-level marketing
Why that?
because those companies often have really strong training programs, especially in, guess what?
Sales.
Sales, communication, handling rejection, building relationships, all those core skills.
Yeah, I see the logic.
Yeah.
But people push back, right? Too much hassle. I only want to do things I like.
He addresses that, compares the hassle to, say, paying taxes your whole life if you don't get ahead, or compares it to going to the gym.
You don't always like going to the gym.
But you do it for the long-term benefit, for your health. Learning new skills is like that, an investment in your financial health.
Makes sense.
Yeah?
But change is hard. He acknowledges that, the old dog new tricks thing.
Yeah, he admits it can be tough if you're not used to pushing yourself. But the encouragement is, like the gym, the hardest part is just starting. Once you get going, it gets easier.
Fair enough. Now, what if you're someone who really wants to specialize? Go deep in one area.
Then the advice shifts. He says, if you're going to be highly
You
specialized,
should probably unionize.
exactly, seek the protection of a union. Because if your skills are that specific,
They might not transfer easily if your industry changes or you lose that specific job.
Yeah.
Like a super specialized pilot, maybe.
right, or even teachers, doctors, he notes that even those professions are seeing more need for union protection as things change. So the rule is highly specialized, then unionize.
It's a defensive strategy for specialists. Okay, shifting gears slightly, that McDonald's analogy, that one's quite powerful.
Yeah, the question he asks in class is, how come McDonald's makes way more money than some chef who can cook a truly amazing burger?
And the answer isn't the burger itself.
No, it's the business systems. McDonald's is brilliant at selling and delivering a consistent product efficiently on a massive scale.
Systems trump product quality in terms of profit, often.
Yeah. And he tells a story about a talented artist, a great creator, but clueless about business and marketing.
Wasted an inheritance on bad advertising or something.
Exactly, because they lacked the system knowledge. It reinforces that point. Loads of talented people are poor because they can't sell or market what they do.
Which brings us back to the two dads again. Their different approaches to preparing for a career.
Right. Educated dad kept pushing specialization, even supported the teachers union strongly, but maybe didn't see the over-specialization cause the need for the union.
While rich dad was doing the opposite, grooming Kiyosaki by moving him around.
Making him learn all the different parts of the business system, accounting, marketing, operations, the whole thing.
It's a different philosophy.
Yeah.
Maybe the old way was specialize and stay with one company for life. But today, knowing how different parts work together seems way more valuable.
Adaptability. So what does he boil down as the most vital skills, management-wise and specialized?
Key management skills. Managing cash flow, managing systems, and managing people. Those are the big three.
And the crucial specialized skills.
Sales and marketing. Fundamentally, it's about communication, being able to sell yourself, your ideas, your products, negotiation, handling rejection without crumbling.
You need to be able to connect with people.
Absolutely. And keep learning in those areas. They're not static skills.
And he uses his educated dad again as an example of the trap, right? Even as he got more competent, more senior.
He actually became more trapped, more vulnerable, highly paid, highly specialized. But when he lost his government job later on, it was tough. His skills weren't easily transferable.
Like a star athlete getting injured or retiring. Suddenly the main thing they know isn't in demand anymore.
Exactly. And that experience probably fueled his support for unions even more.
Whereas Rich Dad's approach was more about building a team.
Yeah, know a bit about a lot yourself, but then bring in people smarter than you in specific areas. Leverage their specializations. Synergy again.
Teamwork makes the dream work.
Kind of. He gives examples, like ex-teachers who learn sales and marketing and end up earning way more by combining those skills.
It really hammers home the importance of communication, doesn't it?
Totally. You can be technically brilliant, but if you can't communicate your value, it's almost wasted potential.
So the advice is almost radical. Spend a year just learning to sell, even if you don't earn much.
Pretty much just immerse yourself in it. Because ultimately, to get truly wealthy, he argues, you need to be good at learning and good at teaching or communicating, giving and receiving knowledge.
That idea of giving comes up again with money too, doesn't it? The difference between the dads.
Yeah, both were generous guys, apparently. But Rich Dad was very intentional about giving away money to church, charities, foundations.
Why?
He believed you had to give money to receive money. Pointed to big foundations like Rockefeller, Ford. It was a principle. Give, and you shall receive.
An educated dad's view.
More like, when I have extra, then I'll give. But the problem was, he rarely felt he had extra, so it was more receive and then maybe give. A fundamental difference in mindset.
Give first versus wait until you have surplus. Interesting. So, wrapping it all up, Kiyosaki positions himself as a blend of both worlds.
Yeah, he calls himself a capitalist, but also a socially responsible teacher. And he puts a lot of the blame for the wealth gap squarely on the education system.
For not teaching these practical financial and business skills.
Exactly, for focusing too much on academics and specialization without the skills needed to actually thrive financially in the real world.
Okay, so let's boil down the core message from this lesson for everyone listening. What's the main takeaway?
I think it's really shift your focus, especially early on, but even now, prioritize learning valuable skills, particularly around selling, marketing, understanding business, maybe even over chasing the highest immediate salary.
Think long-term benefits, not just short-term cash.
Right, because developing those skills, that broader understanding, that's what builds real career momentum, financial security, and just makes you more adaptable to whatever changes come your way.
It might feel counterintuitive, but the potential payoff down the road is huge.
Definitely. Which leads us to that final thought for you, the listener. Take a second to think about your own situation. Right now, in your job or career, are you actively looking for ways to learn new things, valuable things?
Or is the main driver just a paycheck? No judgment, but it's worth asking. What's one small thing you could maybe do this week to learn a skill that could help you later?
Yeah, just reflect on that. Where is your daily grind actually taking you? Are you consciously investing in your future skill set or just treading water?
Food for thought. And remember, this whole deep dive came from listener interest in this specific part of Rich Dad, Poor Dad. We love digging into what you find useful.
Absolutely. Thanks for joining us for this exploration.
Every topic's got a taste, so like, share, and subscribe now. Your next plate's coming soon.